All right. So we're live. AI made simple. Why am I so small? I'm just a small part of this presentation. How many times have you found yourself with things on the line where um, you got to make a presentation, sometimes on the fly? Maybe it's a business proposal. Maybe it's a job interview. Maybe someone's asked you for um, a big proposal that's worth a lot of money for your company. The folks that are listening to this, they're leaders. They used to it. They do it all the time, and you put on the spot and you dance. You figure it out. But how many times have you done that and everything made sense? It was logical. It was a perfect fit. There's just no reason why they wouldn't take you up on it. And it's because you didn't nail. And if they said no and they declined, you remember how you felt. You was like, man, I don't get it. One time it cost me $100,000. Did a presentation for a business plan presentation. Yeah, had 6 weeks to get all your numbers and your plan and your infographics and your booklet put together. And I turned it in, and it was great. I had a great team. It was just a beautiful, beautiful presentation. And then the last piece, I did 45-minute live presentation to the 6 judges. Everything went well, but I didn't get it. And while I pouted about it for a while, it was like, what did I own in this situation? Why did I not get that $100,000 free money? There was a lot on the line. I failed. And so the emotional part was the piece that I missed. I didn't connect. I had 6 people with different opinions about what should be, what should be the reason that they would award this money to me. Would I be a good? All those things are clear in my head, but I didn't make it clear in theirs. And when you find yourself in that situation all the time, and so we don't realize what's at risk if you don't nail, if you don't, like we're watching the Olympics, if you don't stick the landing, right? And so today I'm going to show you how. Here's what's going on. So there's a lot of things at play in the few seconds that you have someone's brain to get clarity. They buy into why I should listen to this person, and then what's in it for me. And so you have to land your point, right? And so you need to be able to turn from logical. Yeah, I'm sharing. Let's see. All right. So you need to move from logical clarity into emotional resonance, right? And so here's what I was missing. Here's the point that I wasn't nailing. So the leadership trap, why logic fails, is I was putting all the logic, probably emphasize how great my organization was, what we did good, all these things, but it didn't tie into the heart and brain of the listeners that were the decision makers on this thing, right? And so I didn't tie in enough emotional weight so that their brain turned off all of the logical feedback, the distractions, and lean in and buy into that. And it wasn't, we had great graphics, but I just really stumbled and didn't make the presentation clear enough. I thought I did a good job, but obviously when you don't get the $100,000, you didn't do that little piece. And so, if I'd known this at that time, if I'd had Notebook LM at that time, then this thing I would have had an unfair advantage. And I'm going to show you how and why that's true. So we have to surface the hidden stakes, okay? And in that presentation, what was at stake was if they didn't award my organization, my company, then that was what the hidden stakes were in this. But I needed to do a visual compare and contrast. They were picking me, there was a handful of us that presented, and so I needed to show more of the visual compare and contrast, like before and after, risk and reward, those type of things. Those need to be in play. And then I needed to have an engineer what's called an aha moment. When we have a group of people that we're presenting to, they have all sorts of competing perspectives and opinions. And the way that you can quickly unify a group real quick and get them to move towards the destination that you need is to create a learning moment, an aha moment. And that's where I failed on this. I didn't connect the dots on what was the big deal and why it was a positive for our community and the employees that I hired in the community and the money that I was bringing into my community from outside of the community. That was the main thing. But I didn't engineer that aha moment. And so we lost out. We lost out on that $100,000. And so you guys get the benefit from it. So let me stop sharing this and we'll go to, here we go. I think this is the right one. Nope. Yes. Seemed like I'd done this before. All right. So when clarity alone fails, you got all the logic. The logic's clear, but we need to move the needle in high stakes, right? So the perfect meeting fallacy. Logic organizes the mind, but it doesn't compel action. You presented it to your team, your employees, your the group you're leading, the church, your nonprofit, but you've felt frustrated that there wasn't all this buy-in or a bunch of pushback. And again, when you're leaning on the logical side of the world, but you didn't create a unifying emotional piece, then you fell into what's called the clarity trap. So people don't remember, you've heard that, people don't remember what you say, they remember how you made them feel. And so the way you make that team, that audience feel is the thing that's the big value. You, you've watched you've watched comedians talking and everybody's laughing and he's nailing a point or she's nailing a point, and it's always some unexpected. She's telling the story, and then all of a sudden there's this unexpected surprise that happens, and everybody laughs. That's a unifying aha moment, is what you're doing. And so when you're doing a presentation, you need to be moving toward that little destination. And that's when they learn something. You need to lead those folks to where they learn something of value that creates that aha moment. And so we've been talking about the three stories in the previous series. Was, we need to nail that outside message to your audience, your customer. How do they see your solution and their aspirational, successful future? That's important. You also need to be telling the story for your team. There needs to be this culture bonding way, and that comes from that story that your team knows. That's a story you need to get real. And then, of course, the discovery halo story, the story of your content and how it's formatted and how it goes out into the search engine, social media, so that the AI can tell the right story about you. But in each of those stories, you have to nail these three forces of influence. Cognitive clarity. Hey, I understand what you're saying. You said it clearly. It makes sense in a short amount of time. So they can immediately understand what it is that you're talking about. But today we're focusing on emotional resonance, the feeling aspect, the emotional, the bonding, the part of it, and then the social cohesion, how to move and set up this experience where everybody learns together. So this is called imprinting. And when these three converge, you get alignment on your brand, on your on your mission, on your vision. That's what's happening. And so the biology of important. The brain doesn't really store information equally. It acts as a filter. But think about, there's something that happened years ago that you learned something, and you had this, that that experience made you feel something, and it sticks with you today. It's got priority when your brain pulls it up in a memory. And yet you couldn't go through all the details of what you learned, but that one emotional thing brings all of that input back and engages it immediately. You're back up to speed, and you can quickly remember all the details. Or when you review it, it's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. But that emotion is what pulls it back really fast. It's like, yeah, it's like, you know, logical information is like, the old modems that make the noise, the AOL modems. That's what logic is. And then when you put an emotion on it, then you've got fiber optic recall, optic priority. And so your brain tags it, just like when you're story, or you're tagging something to be brought back up as a part of the report. When you add a tag to it, it means I wanted this piece of information to be included, and your brain does a version of that. And so that emotional resonance is an amplifier, whereas the data is, there's a lot of energy that it takes to memorize that data. We're always amazed at this person who memorized the phone book, but it's like a lot of effort and time put into that. I'm not going to do that. And that's the way your brain feels about all the information. You can bring a big long report, but wow, it's like I don't appreciate it. Even I wrote a book, and so I was shocked by some people when I would suggest read hey, I'd love for you to read my book. There's almost like they're offended. You want me to sit down and focus on something for a certain amount of time? That's how your brain feels when you hand people a report or a well-written a piece of information. That's it's like what we're taught to do first, but it's like the last thing that we should be doing. We should be able to tell a story real good and connect the dots. But that's where Notebook LM comes in, because it leapfrogs you into being an expert storyteller. You feed it what you want to get across. What's the intent? Where's the learning piece? And it organizes it and presents it. This very presentation that I'm showing you, this infographic, was done today, 20 minutes. It took me to design all of this in Notebook LM, and yet it took the information and it quickly categorized it, put in the images. I didn't have a team do this for me. I did this, and I'm not even an excellent creative. There are people on my team who are much better, but this got them off the hook. But I get it to where it nails my specific message, but it brings in these pieces that help connect the dots and help support you. And that's why you're here listening. Insight feels good, but we have to the insight, that aha moment, is got to resolve this. And there's an internal struggle. So when we're presenting information to someone, that they're in their own story, and it's the most important story going on, is what's in their head and what their story is. And if you're wanting to partner with them and you're wanting to bring your solution into their future, then you need to be clear on what their story is, and also what their insecurity is in that process. They're wanting to get from a status quo to an aspirational point in their future. And so that means they want to go on this journey, and they're going to go through moments where they're going to doubt themselves. And there's an internal struggle that they're doubting whether they have what it takes, or they're doubting they have all of the equipment or all of the resources or assets to accomplish this. And if you can resolve that tension, that's the tension in the story, If you can resolve that intention and give them an aha moment that your solution, it fits right in their plan. It's like the flashlight and the map that they need to get through that dark, scary forest. Then that will create a an emotion of confidence, and it helps them see the path that they're going to take. And so we're rewarding a part of their brain. We're initiating a chemical reaction. So look at this text over here. This shuts people down. I see these great posts and there's all this information, or I get an email, and the first thing my brain does is look at it and decide, do I read it now or later? And so if there's just a synopsis at the top, which you'll notice that the AI, like in Google, for example, will give you a synopsis of what this email is about. I'm starting to read those first before I even look at the email. And it's because it's resolving this problem of, here's a lot of data. We need you to stop and pay attention and digest this, and then reply to me. And I'm like going, I've got a lot of other things to do. Well, that's what we're doing. And so this is the message, whatever it is here, but with a graphic like this, you can quickly communicate a whole lot of information. An image or a picture is worth what? 1,000 words. And so when you're wanting to reveal the reason why they should listen, is like, what's at stake if you don't accomplish this transformation that you're attempting or you want to go? And where does my solution fit in your story? Well, you need to define what's before and what's after. We need to draw both of these. We need to state the obvious, creating the tension. All right. But then we need to give them a picture of where they are going to end up. So you can do this with before and after, problem versus possibility, risk versus reward. But this is what the stakes need to be stated and obvious. And so Notebook LM is like amazing, just amazing. This created this presentation with just a simple outline. I'll show you in a second. With a simple outline, it made all of this information clear so that it follows in a logical order and an actual story arc as well. And I don't need to be an expert story arc designer, right? And neither do you. But if Notebook LM is free, and you taking your information in and being able to put it to work elevates you. It gives you an unfair advantage, and it helps you be more effective and accomplish more of what you intend. It reduces your frustration as well. You work so hard on presentations and they don't land. I understand that. Plus, you don't get the $1 million contract, or you don't get the promotion, or you don't get the job, or you don't get the grant. There's a lot of things at stake when you don't illustrate what your solution or what your plan or a presentation, it will fall short. And there's just a formula that we're following. And it's a story arc formula, but that's what Notebook LM does so well. So you've got different prompts here. What's at risk if this doesn't happen? Who's affected the most? What fear is implied here? What opportunity is being missed? What transformation is possible? Sometimes I can't even answer these particular questions real clearly, but when I go put the information in and put this in, then Notebook LM that has the advantage of this amazing training over all of these billions of patterns. And it can divide. Many times I think, man, it said it better than me. So clarity organizes the mind, and emotion moves the memory. Okay. And so clarity plus emotion is persuasion that lasts. So when we look at Notebook LM, if you haven't logged in to Notebook LM, here's it. So we're in Notebook LM. It's a free tool. You can just go sign up at notebooklm.google.com. Set it up. It's free. but it's this amazing tool. So over here on the left is where you're going to bring your resources in. This becomes your source of truth, your knowledge base. So you would upload any information that you want to be considered that you need to present. Maybe it's your PDFs, your a proposal, your contract, whatever it may be. You bring it in here. You just add this source right here. You put your copied text. You can copy and paste it. You can bring in YouTube videos, websites, Google Drive files, any folder, anything that you have. You can even send it out on the web to conduct research. And it's going to bring in a series of documents or sources. So we'll quickly go over here. This is an example. So these are from all of my my live streams. We've got all of the transcripts from my live streams. I put other data in here as well. But becomes the source of truth or the knowledge base. This is your chat bot. So this would be able to, you would be interrogating the number of sources that you have in here. You can interrogate or ask the chat bot to help you discuss, think, organize, strategize, whether it's select all the sources or just one of the specific sources. Okay. And so that's what this area becomes to you as your typical chatbot, but it's only pulling from these sources and any external sources that you went out and searched and brought in here. But it's not going out on the web every time. It's only referring to the sources that you choose to put in this container. Then you can ask it all sorts of questions. But here's the beauty about Notebook LM. It is an amazing tool that can help you create any sort of asset that helps you present, communicate, teach, describe as a professional with visual supporting documents or assets. So if we look over here in this particular, back to this example, we brought in, it's made me an explainer from one source. Here's our explainer here. Emotional resonance. We'll put this link in the YouTube description today. But you see the graphics. This thing is presenting. So you see how it took the style I picked, and now it's presenting. Here it is, the decay of an idea. All right. Amazing, amazing resources that you can quickly get in minutes. Here's an audio overview of basically a podcast where two folks are talking about this particular source that I picked. Here's our quiz. So today, so made a quiz. Look at this for 10, it's got 10 questions. And it's, if I was to say, all right, we're wrapping up this video, what did you learn? Well, which three forces must overlap to achieve imprinting? Ensure an idea has staying power. And it gave us 4 choices: cognitive clarity, emotional resonance, and social cohesion. You see, these are amazing assets that are beautifully presented, extremely powerful. But all of a sudden, it's taken me from clumsy in my presentation to confidence and polished, right? Over here is, this is the infographic. No, this is the slideshow that I was presenting to you. This is where our infographic came from. So, if you have data, it'll create it in a data table. It'll design a quiz. It'll generate a report. It'll even create a mind map. Mind maps are amazing at connecting different concepts and how they relate. And so Notebook LM is an amazing free tool that you can use to really nail these 3 things, these high stakes presentations that you find yourself in in just moments. You don't need to spend days on this. Moments, you can collect your messy thoughts, put it into that data source on the side, put it in here, bring it in here, bring in any other supporting materials, and then ask it to help you get it organized over here. And then download them, and you're good to go. I mean, you have a crazy unfair advantage over the folks that you're competing with to communicate the value of your solution. It gives you confidence, it gives you clarity, it gives you the emotional impact. It's amazing that the responses that imagine sending a contract with a little video overview of what the essence of the contract is. Who does that? Well, that's you do now. All right. So I've got a newsletter. Subscribe to that AI Made Simple newsletter. It goes out to a lot of folks every week. It covers these topics. It reminds you of these videos. Also, if there's an infographic, no, there's a QR code on screen here. Scan that, connect with me. If you need help getting you're a leader and you have high stakes communication and you don't have a big team set to make you look great, that's who I work with. I help you get confidence, get organized, use these tools so you can excel. Another episode of AI Made Simple. Let me know, like, subscribe, do all the things the cool kids do. And we'll see you next week on another episode of AI Made Simple. We'll cover part 3, how to move a group of folks when you're doing presentation, high stakes. One of the hardest things to do is to align and get a group of folks to end up on the same point on the horizon. And that's another episode of AI Made Simple. That's a wrap.